Apple's Traqués, or The Hunt, was supposed to come out a few months ago and then was pulled suddenly. Well, the French thriller is back on the schedule, so should you add it to your watch list? Franck and his longtime friends enjoy spending their weekends hunting together, but one Sunday they come across another group of hunters who start targeting them without explanation. When one of their party is shot, Franck's friends strike back, sending an attacker to the ground. Barely managing to escape, the four friends keep the event a secret. But in the next few days, the group starts to feel like they're being watched, or worse, tracked by hunters who are now hell-bent on revenge. This is a 6-episode limited series, and it takes place in this small-ish French town in the mountains. Setting it's beautiful and serene, with a vast forest, mountaintops just jutting out, streams wandering through the woods, and then on the outskirts of the town, some rough-around-the-edges families who get sketchier the more we learn about them. Now, the first episode, like most of the series, is a combo of slow-building tension and then moments or bursts of energetic action. The idea of the story is intriguing, if not unique. A group of friends gets possibly mistaken for game and are fired upon, creating this cascading effect that begins a shootout and ends with somebody taken around to the chest. Now, there's excitement in this, but the real stressor of the story comes after, with the waiting and the stewing to see if something will be reported in the news, or maybe if the police are going to suddenly show up at a door. What's that saying? The anticipation of death is worse than death itself. Well, that's what we watch play out throughout the series. The stress of the unknown drives friends crazy, instilling paranoia and mistrust amongst all of these longtime comrades. And if this was all the show focused on, the waiting with deteriorating mindsets, the story could have maintained a taut string of dread and suspense, but it doesn't only focus on that. And to be fair, the elements do all fall into place by the end, so they're not complete distractions. But wow, do they feel like some odd tangents as the series is going along. From children sneaking out to runaway teens, even unfaithfulness within marriage, some of the actions distract from the overall narrative. And then when they lead back, they vary in their impact. The issue I struggled with the most in this is that pretty much every character is tough to cheer on. Almost all of them are flawed, but in ways that make them less likable than forgivable. The main character, Franck, he comes across as kind of this backwoods mafia know-it-all, feeling as though he's superior to his friends because he has more money and influence in the community, but also because he wants to make decisions. And many times he bullies the friend group into getting his way, despite any reservations that the rest may have. But at the same time, he's also looking after them as sort of an older brother, doing what's necessary to protect, even if it's not above board, or if it seems like a terrible idea in the moment. Franck can be someone willing to take on the risk for the benefit of his friends. And it doesn't mean I liked the character, though, even though he did display some of these noble qualities. And Franck's friends are more bumps on logs than terrible people. Some blindly go along with him. A few others just want to go to the police so the entire ordeal can be over. And then when I saw Melanie Laurent was also in this, I thought she might have a larger role than what she does. As Franck's wife, she deals with a lot of drama that surrounds him, but she mainly gets pushed to the background within the story, only having a few moments to delve really into her character. And of course, on the other side of the shooting scuffle are the unknown group of potential redneck hillbillies. We don't get to see a lot of the ones Franck's group had the shootout with, at least until later in the story. But once we do, they're also not a group of characters who are worth supporting. Are they the bad guys? I mean, yeah, maybe. In some instances, sure. But in some instances, Franck and his mates are also the bad guys, making all of these interactions and strife just muddled shades of gray rather than something we can clearly determine as good or bad. And from a slow-burning story perspective, this performs well, stringing us along just as Franck and his group are led down paths to put them through the stress wringer. And the visuals the characters get that we see, they're not vague. So in their clarity and directness, they become frighteningly visceral. And before we get to the final episode, the story does give us quite a few reveals to allow all of the elements to finally fall into place. Now, some of them you'll probably already have guessed, but I think there's probably one or two that might still be a surprise. And once we get to the finale, it's nail-biting and full of action, and then, like many French stories, it just sort of ends. I didn't find the resolution to be extremely satisfying or complete, almost as though we get to determine the moments past when the credits roll for ourselves. And I'm not saying it's a bad way to wrap up the series, especially because of the continuation of an ongoing theme involving Franck, but there's this level of incompleteness that feels like an abrupt way to end. And in that way, it's almost fitting. A cold and semi-sudden finale that pretty much was always heading to this resolution. So while the scenery is astounding and the tension is palpable, the sentiments are entrenched in futility. Inopportune moments spur on terrible actions, which lead to more horrible decisions that only escalate until chaos erupts, creating a story that will raise our blood pressure and push it towards the end of your seat, but it also won't leave you with any sense of hope. Most characters are difficult to connect with or sympathize with, leaving even supposed protagonists at arm's length. Because the series is more of a slow burn and doesn't provide much in the way of inspiring characters, it might be better served as a binge rather than watching episodes weekly. There's sex, no nudity, ton of profanity, and then a lot of violence. I give The Hunt 3 out of 5 couches. Even though it's a tougher one to gel with, I think binging the series will make it more enjoyable. Okay, have you been watching any great thrillers lately? Bonus points if they're non-English. I would just love to get some recommendations in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.